Welcome everyone. Selamat datang semuanya. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're all gathering today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and any other Indigenous people with us here today. My name is Katerina and I am a AEA Queensland committee member, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to speak with two amazing entrepreneurs today. I'd like to acknowledge some of the collaborators. So you've seen some videos from AEA National in Queensland, as well as Anak Brisbane, and of course, Kelas Bersama. So to our speakers, our first speaker, Rizka. She's the co-founder of Take and Eat Tempeh, and her and her husband, Aldi, started Take and Eat Tempeh in 2015 in Melbourne, where they manufacture fresh and frozen tempeh. Now, an interesting fact about Rizka, at school, she was known as bakbao or bao bun because of her cheeks. So you might notice that. Our second speaker is Amelia, and she is the founder of Indo Speak in Jakarta. Her first translating agency was actually started in 2013 in Sydney, and now she's established Indo Speak in Jakarta in 2019. And something interesting about Amelia is she's had her fair share of experience with natural disasters, including the Aceh tsunami and multiple earthquakes. So I'd like to welcome them into the webinar now. Hi, Rizka. Hi, Amelia.
Hi,
welcome.
Hi, Kat. Thanks.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining us. So let's get straight into it. I've given just a brief introduction to the two of you, and some of our listeners and our viewers may have seen your bios in the advertising for this event. But I want to start with maybe Rizka. I want to learn about you and how you got involved in your business and how you actually built it.
Right. So my background itself is actually I'm a graduate of business school, but the entrepreneurship actually my husband dragged me into it. So I'm actually more like a office kind of person, but my husband is like a true entrepreneur. He's the one who dragged me into the business. But I guess the more you involve in the business, you kind of like you just fell in love into it. So yeah, so we just started like the business with my ourselves, and then once we grow into it, we just you put everything into it, and then yeah, everything just go by itself, I think.
And what made you want to do a business around tempeh?
Yeah, that's interesting because we both have passion for foods. My second study is like more into the culinary. Like I was doing pastry and my husband's doing cookery. We both have passion for foods, and because we're both from Indonesia, we were thinking about like this food is really like fantastic from Indonesia. Like why don't we bring it up here? Because everywhere around the world, at the time 2015, tempeh wasn't really popular in Australia, but all other countries, they start getting popularity, but not here. So with our background and with our passion, we thought like, why don't we start, introducing tempeh to Australians? Like we show them the real one. It could be the next big thing in here. So yeah, we just started.
That's fantastic. And on the screen, our viewers can now see some wonderful images of tempeh and how it's served.
Yeah. So we basically start. Sorry. Yeah, we basically start from getting into farmers market. So instead of we get the customer to come to us, we actually come to them. That's the approach that we took to to reintroduce the tempeh, so we can speak directly to the end customer. And farmers market is one thing that we still do until now, and we love seeing people. We love to change like their perspective about tempeh, because the tempeh that commonly found in supermarket is it's not really good. So we like to talk directly to the end customer, see the possibilities, what kind of food that you can make with tempeh. And also because in 2020, we also had the opportunity to open our cafe. We use tempeh as the main ingredients to our meals. So like the picture that you have in the screen, like on the left one is a teriyaki bowl, sushi bowl. So we use like the ingredients people normally use in a sushi, but we use the tempeh rashers as the protein in it and put it like, we make it like beautiful bowl. Like people will, it will be interesting for people to try out. And that's one of the way that we do to introducing tempeh to, the general Australians, not only Indonesian. And yeah, on the left, on the right as well is like our tempeh platter. We introduced the typical Indonesian food, like the bottom one is the tempeh mendoan, like battered tempeh, and also the little cubes is like tempeh goreng. If you've been to Indonesia, it's like a really, really staple for literally everyone. But we also mix it up with like a hummus, we make that as interesting as possible. So we got hummus there, something that people already familiar with, and then we put our own things in that. So that's how we introduce tempeh to the people.
I mean, that's so amazing to really go down to the grassroots, try and introduce this ingredient in a sort of known way, but a new, fresh way, and take it straight to the consumer at the farmers markets. I think that's incredible. And I have to say, I'm starting to get a little bit hungry just looking at these.
Yeah, because
with
the tempeh, like as far as we know, like people know tempeh, but they don't really know how to use it. Like that's the most common question that I got when I got into the market. So I normally give them recipes. I gave them like, suggestions, like there's endless possibility with tempeh. You can fry it, you can steam it, you can even put it in the burgers, but we didn't really have a chance to, present them like in reality until 2020 when we have our cafe. So why don't we bring that, when people visit our store, you can also try the tempeh that we create, like the meals that you can actually have with your tempeh expert.
Incredible. Thank you. So we're going to move away from food now and to translating. And I want to welcome Amelia again. And I'd like to hear from you, how did you build your business and how did you get involved in that?
Yeah, thanks, Kat. Yeah, definitely different from Tempeh. So it's nice to see different businesses going on. I think, yeah, so back in the day, 2006 really it all started, was my first instance of interpreting. So I was studying, actually, a lot of people here might know about AEDT. So it's a program that a lot of Australians do to study in Indonesia. So I was studying in Jakarta at the time, and there was a huge earthquake, and there was, I think it was about 6,000 people died or so. But a lot of international agencies came in, and a couple of my friends and I were requested to be translators to assist at the time. So for me, that was just a fantastic experience of what the world of interpreting and translation looked like. And basically that really paved my way ahead. And after that, I said, okay, I want to do my master's in this. So I did a master's in interpreting and translation after that. And then not long after, I started up Indo Speak in Sydney, as you said earlier, so 2013. And really, yeah, it's kind of just been history since then. And it wasn't easy. I basically didn't know anyone really in the field. And I really just had to kind of feel my way through in everything and just really build everything from the ground up. But I've just never looked back since, and I still love it till today. And yeah, as you said earlier, so we began Indo Speak in Jakarta. So it's PT Indo Speak Suara Nusantara. We started that beginning of last year, 2019, and already we've become one of the biggest agencies here in Indonesia. So it's really exciting, and only good things ahead, I think.
Wow, that's incredible. And can you talk us through these images here? I can see you in a bath gown. Is that your gown?
Apologies, everyone. And I am wearing clothes under that too, so don't worry. So this is just to show you, I mean, there's been huge changes, obviously, in everyone's world, obviously, this year with COVID. I guess just to give you a little idea of my life prior to COVID, I was So I moved kind of for good to Indonesia in August 2018. And but still, Indo-Speak in Australia is still running at the same time. So I'm still kind of leading up both of these agencies in two countries. So I was going back to Australia every fortnight or every once a month sometimes. So a lot of travel back and forth. Since March, I've basically been, as much as possible, self-quarantining. This is actually my first on-site job that I've done since COVID broke out. This is the first time I couldn't say no to a client. So I'm just showing you here. So you can see in the middle, this is actually an on-site job that we had at the Shangri-La in Jakarta the other day. So this is us using our equipment on an on-site job, just like we did back in the day. But on the left, you can see I'm in a hotel room, got my bathrobe on, and we're doing online interpreting. So we call this RSI, or remote simultaneous interpretation, which is my world at the moment, always in front of the screen. Fortunately, I don't know if anyone here would have tried it before, but on Zoom, we have interpreter channels. So we can just do everything through the Zoom platform, or we have other dedicated platforms we can use as well. So just to show you that my life can be, all fancy and dressed up at the Shangri-La, and then I can just retire to my room and get online and do work very easily if my client doesn't have to see me, so I can wear whatever I like. So it's a totally different world at the moment.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think, the theme is adapting to the unexpected. So we're going to maybe move straight in to what I want to speak about next is, what were some of the big challenges of starting up in Indonesia? And then how did you overcome these?
I think I was I believe I was a bit fortunate in a way that I'd actually been really connecting with the interpreters and translators in Indonesia for many years before my big move to Indonesia. So I was very much already involved in all the WhatsApp groups. I knew who was in the field. I knew the other agencies, the other big names, the high up, the senior interpreters and all that. So I was really aware of what I was coming into. Obviously, it's always very different when you do end up moving. But fortunately, I kind of had those networks and those connections before coming here. So that really helped everything. Another fortunate thing for me is that my main, what would you call it? I guess one of the great things about Indo-Speak is that we really play a huge role in the bilateral space between Indonesia and Australia. So a lot of our clients are involved in those two areas. Obviously, now in Indonesia, I get a lot more clients from Netherlands or United Nations, World Bank. So it's a more international focus. But from back in the day, we've always had a huge focus on the bilateral space, which makes it really easy because a lot of my clients that I had back in Australia, they're over here in Jakarta anyway, and then them knowing me here just opens up for more, more jobs and more work that we can do over here. So I feel bad in a way because it was kind of too easy just to kind of get everything started. So I remember it was only 3 weeks into coming into Indonesia. We're basically working full time from then on. So I'm so thankful. But in terms of the admin side of things, I'm kind of person that loves admin stuff. So I just got my head straight into getting all that done. I was like, nah, we've got to get the bank account. We've got to get the company. Everything has to be running up and we've got to do it proper. Taxes, we've got to do everything, abide by the law, Yeah. So I made sure that I got all the right people around me. I had to find the best consultants. I wasn't happy with status quo or doing things, cutting shortcuts here and there. I wasn't happy with that. So we had to find the best. And I'm really happy with how things have worked out with that, but that's no easy feat. So I know there might be a question about others wanting to start up a business in Indonesia. No easy feat, but I'm very happy to talk to people about doing so.
So maybe we'll get back to that a bit later because by the sounds of it, you've had pretty smooth running thanks to all the hard work you've put into it.
Easier than imagined, yeah.
I can imagine. And maybe Rizka can talk on some of the challenges about starting a business in Australia and how you overcome these.
Right. Starting a business in Australia apparently is not as difficult as I thought it would be because my background is in Indonesian. I know there's, with the bureaucracy especially, and I know it's sometimes can be quite difficult, but in Australia is not that difficult. But the challenge is it's probably just running the business itself, like not starting up. Starting up is just like, it's very straightforward. Like the government, they all have the set of rules that you have to follow. And once you can meet that, you can basically, start your own business. But the challenge for us, it's probably because the product that we present to the market as well, it's not something that people familiar with. So, building trust, like, it's probably one of the biggest challenges that we had at start. But yeah, we were pretty lucky because we figured this farmers market as well, like, and we were accepted to be able to trading in farmers market where we can see a lot of people, and we're doing markets not only in one area. We do it Saturday, Sunday, like every weekend, and we can go to like all different places. So yeah, I think that will be one of the biggest challenges at start. And even though once we got into the market, it's not as easy. Like when we say like, hey, would you like to try tempeh? And then they go like, what is it? Like, oh, it's soybeans. Like, oh, I don't like soybeans. Oh, it tastes like cardboard. Like we heard a lot of that like negative perspective about tempeh, because the tempeh that Australia, like Melbourne, had at the time, it was like really, really limited options. It's different from now. Like there's a lot of tempeh makers, like in Sydney, in Queensland, there are a few brands in Melbourne itself. But back in 2015, there's not so many people doing it, and I don't even know if they're doing it right, because the tempeh that we have in Indonesia and here is, as I said, is very, very different. And because most people go to the supermarket and that's the tempeh that is accessible to them. Yeah, when we go to the market, they go like underestimating, like, oh, I don't really like that. But because we give out like sample, like we always have like a little fried tempeh for sampling. It's very easy to make, and because the tempeh that we have, it's like it resembles like the real tempeh that we have in Indonesia as well. Apparently, that changed their perspective. Like they started to be able to accept that. Like even though the one that hates tofu, they had very negative experience. Once they tried our samples, they normally say like, "Oh wow, what is this? Oh, it tastes like chicken. Oh, I will eat this," and that's just paid off actually.
So really, you've had to handle those negative perceptions that people have had here, because the tempeh is just not the same and not as good. And so once they were given the chance to try your tempeh, that's really Indonesian, they then were convinced, okay, this is actually something I could cook with, I could eat regularly.
Yes. Yeah, so that would be one of the biggest.
Quite a slow process.
Sorry, the slow process?
That must have been difficult, just trying to get people to realize that.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. It was one of the most challenging thing that we had at the first time we start the business. But the product speaks for itself. Like after we gave them, after we speak to them, we give them samples. Like maybe just 10% that still doesn't like it. But you don't. I know it's not for everyone, but 90% of them, it changed their mind about tempeh. Like they are more open-minded about fermented stuff. They're more open-minded about this product particularly. And yeah, we're happy. I mean, that's one of our vision. We want to make people more familiar with tempeh as a new product if they haven't heard of it before, and also to reintroduce it. Reintroducing is probably more difficult because we have to change their perspective. But I mean, like we've been running for years and it actually works.
Yeah. And has there been other ways other than at the farmers market? Like have you had to use some maybe interesting marketing channels or had to be a bit more creative because of that challenge, other than just at the farmers market offering those samples?
I found the farmers market is quite effective to change that perspective because we speak directly to the end customer. They're the one who use our product. So from that, they will tell their friends, they will tell their families. And at the time, vegan lifestyles were also they're emerging during that time. So it was like that was fortunate as well for us. So it's like a right momentum for us to launch the product. Other than that is maybe showing them like what to do with tempeh. So for people who's been to Indonesia, tempeh is like, we always have it like fried, and fried is not really the healthiest thing to do with tempeh. So we changed that perspective. We show them what to do with it. So if you don't like, a lot of oil and everything, you can always put it in a bolognese sauce, for example. Bolognese is like, everybody have bolognese, and you can have a really good bolognese tempeh instead of beef, and that gives you the same amount of protein. So it's something that we do. Like, we refer them to our Instagram, to our Facebook, where we put like recipes, to our website as well. We give them recipes, free recipes, and also I'm very responsive to DMs, private message, and everything. I always say to people, like, if you have any question, or if you need some suggestion to cook tempeh, feel free to call us. Like, we'll be happy to give you recipes. We will be very happy to give you, to guide you what to do with it. And I think that's working pretty well.
So almost there's a few learnings there with this challenge. The easiest part about it is you have a good product, and then with that, you're able to market it in person and online, what to do with it, and it starts to speak for itself.
Yeah, you have to believe in your product pretty much. Like, I believe my product is good, so I'm confident to introduce it to people. Like, I know maybe you didn't like it before, but if you want to give it a try, I mean, it's free just to taste it. Then feel free. If you don't like it, that's fine. But if maybe it can change your mind.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's trying to give that option to the people, and hopefully they are open to receiving it.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing about that, Rizka. I want to move on to, following on from some of the challenges, maybe some more specific challenges around COVID. It's hard to ignore that this year. And Rizka, I believe you're in Melbourne, so you may have had some challenges as well. Can you maybe let us know a bit about how that impacted with your restaurant opening this year and that sort of thing? And what have you had to do in your response to the COVID pandemic?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're in Melbourne has probably the hardest hit of the COVID. Like, we had like almost, I don't know, the last lockdown was like almost 4 months. And the fact that we actually opened 3 days before the first lockdown, it's actually, it's been a roller coaster, really. So, we opened our cafe. It's called Staple Food. We've been, we've been preparing it since the beginning of this year. So around February, we moved our factory to this new one where we're going to open the cafe. We prepared everything. Once everything ready, I was the chef, by the way, at the first time. So we opened Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was our grand opening, and a lot of people came to our cafe. And then Sunday night, and then boom, you cannot trade anymore.
Wow.
So luckily we have like I'm not doing it by myself. Not only me and my husband. We have partner as well that we can chat about it, what to do about it. So I guess the main thing is to be able to adapt to that change. For example, in the first lockdown, we cannot do dine-in anymore, so we have to change to takeaway. So at the time, the challenge was change the menu. Which menu will be suitable to takeaway? Like that sort of things that we have to think quickly and then put action into it. So we cannot think about like changes like for too long. We have to really we have to be able to read the situation, like with the government restriction and everything. What do you think might happen? We need to already have some options. Like, if this happened, that we can do this, and then if it does not happen, that's good. We can do like just the normal. But if the worst thing happened, we already have a plan, and with that plan, we have to put actions like quickly. Like, we cannot think too long to take action. I think that's the main thing about particularly with this COVID situation, especially because in Melbourne, the rules can change like every 2 weeks. Like, it's very, very, it's frustrating, challenging, but hopefully we've passed that, because now we have 14 days of 0 cases. I think that's pretty good. And and then the second lockdown as well. We were pretty all right with the takeaways and limited dine-in at the time before the second lockdown. And then suddenly when the cases again it rose like very, very significantly. Government shut down everything, like it's worse than the first one. Then we have to think again, like what to do. And at the time, we focus on doing food that we can deliver. So because people can't, like people movement are really, really limited. So we would think something that we need to deliver to them. If we want to, you know, survive this, we have to think about a product that will be suitable to eat at home, like, and we can deliver. So that will mean it's not like typical cafe meals, like, you know, not the pretty things we put on the bowl we get. So at the time we changed to donuts and pastry, but we focus on vegan market. So we do vegan donuts, vegan croissants, but we make it like really, really good, and we offer that for delivery. And also with tempeh, people can cook at home. So we do delivery, but we make it worth it, like with the labor and everything, by adding as many products as we can. So we have to be cost efficient as well, right? We're doing business. So not only tempeh and a coffee beans, for example, the one that we already have, we have to be creative with another product. So donuts and pastry are one of the things that we came up with, and that worked pretty good. Oh, and another thing was we did like ready to cook tempeh. So some of the menu that we have on the cafe, we modified that. So in a way that, for example, in the sushi bowl, you see that the tempeh rashers that we put in the bowl. So we offered that rashers by itself. So we put it in the packaging, we put it in a book vacuum pack. But the tempeh, we already season it, we already half cook it. So when people can get it like half done, and then they can do their own meals at home. So that
so
some kind of thing.
How we make our tempeh. Everything we make fresh in house. We source the bean from Australia. Where possible, we get the organic or non-GMO. The process is quite unique. We make our tempeh, we call it slow ferment. So we ferment a longer period of time with lower temperatures. Means that your tempeh is not growing rapidly. The process pretty much how we make in Indonesia. So it's more like traditional tempeh. So if you taste tempeh in Bali before, our tempeh is pretty much similar. That's why our tempeh is so amazing. So guys, if you want to eat some real tempeh, make sure you buy it from us.
There you go. That's how you make tempeh.
That's my husband actually, the mastermind behind all of it.
Well, looks great on camera, and I think it's also when people get to see as well as part of the marketing, well, where's the food coming from? Because, you know, you alluded to trying to tap into that vegan market, and often with that you want to see exactly, you know, where's the food, how was it made, is it natural? And you seem to really be able to create that image, which I think is also very positive. And I love the pastry idea, because then I can order a pastry, snack on that while I'm cooking my tempeh. I mean, it's perfect.
It's a balance. Tempeh full of protein and the donuts full of sugar. It's balanced.
Perfect. It's a healthy diet, well balanced.
That's it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And thanks for sharing about some of the challenges. And I can really sense that really the biggest thing and the biggest lesson I have from this is being able to respond quickly. So not waiting and thinking, just responding, doing, and maybe also doing, testing, changing, testing again until you find that rhythm and the right response to what's happening.
Yes, that's right.
Well, then now we might move on to Amelia to see what some of the challenges she had with her translating agency, because I can imagine there would be totally different challenges in Jakarta. And you were talking before that you used to fly in between Australia and Indonesia, and I'm assuming that's changed?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no. So my last time in Sydney was in February. So I was in Canberra and Sydney in February this year. And I remember that at the airport at that time, they were already asking us, have you been to China in the last 14 days? Which seems a very bizarre question for COVID now. It's kind of, have you been anywhere? So that was the last time. And even when I wasn't traveling between Australia and Indonesia, we would always be traveling interstate here anyway. So that's just basically not fully completely stopped. I got some colleagues who are already moving around a little bit, but in Indonesia, as my Indonesian colleagues would understand, we have to do rapid tests or PCR swab tests before you travel anywhere.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good thing. It's a good basically incentive to not travel, really.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy staying put at the moment. Yeah.
I can imagine. So then, what kind of challenges have you had to face other than not being able to travel? And you talked before about having to do a lot more online and not being able to be there. And what was your response to the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess in terms of impact as well, I remember back in March looking at the figures, I think our turnover went down by 84% or something like that. Because all of a sudden,
Wow.
because basically in interpreter life, you basically rely on just conferences and meetings everywhere, all over the place. And then all of a sudden that just shut down. And I was quite confused what was going to happen next. To be honest, we've had RSI or remote simultaneous interpretation has been around before COVID. So it's actually been around for a few years now. But I was always just quite hesitant, just, didn't want to have to do interpreting over a laptop, and we're thinking about internet connection and just hating that idea of not physically meeting with people and just loving, especially in Indonesia, it's so kush, what do you call it? Kush. It's so kush over here because, you come in the morning, you get brekkie fed to you. Even, Australia, we only get like sandwiches at lunch if we're lucky and some Arnott's biggies. No, it's not that bad in Australia. But, here you get your morning teas, your lunch. Afterwards with the dinner, you can bawa pulang, you can take it back home with you. In Australia, 45 minutes, it's out. They've got to chuck it out because of hygiene issues. So anyway, this is all about working in hotels over here. It's very lovely. So basically, in the beginning, I was a little bit hesitant, thinking like, "Oh my gosh, do I have to start doing stuff online now?" Amazingly, though, we have a great interpreter translator community over here in Indonesia, and I was actually really amazed by the generosity of some of my colleagues, who they were I would have to say, they were the pioneers of doing RSI work over here. And I think actually Indonesia is at the forefront of this remote interpreting work compared to many other countries. I'm looking at what even the big international bodies and other countries are doing in this space. And I think Indonesia is so ahead. And I know, Kat, you were saying before about, internet connection in Indonesia. And I've been amazed because when we're online, we compare that with Australia and other countries. And me and my colleagues over here have some of the best connections. And I've just upgraded recently just for this sake. So basically, we had a few months gap where kind of nothing was happening. But then fortunately we had to start getting equipment, and we have specific things that we have to do with online work. So my agency, we're very picky as well. So I will only use interpreters that have a LAN connection, that use a USB headset, or that use a USB microphone, because we have to make sure that we're providing quality audio interpretation for our clients and visual as well. So we're very particular in that space. At the moment, basically, we use Zoom for a lot of our meetings. In the beginning, a lot of our Australian clients, particularly, they couldn't use Zoom, but I'm seeing that's changing a lot now. So Zoom is really becoming the number one space. It's not the perfect platform for interpreting, but it lets me do my job basically every day at the moment.
Yeah.
So, and then it was funny, like with that job I had to do the other day, the on-site job, I kind of said to my colleagues, I said, I wonder if I prefer online now. It's just so easy. And because in terms of equipment, if we have to do an on-site job, if I've got 40 people there that need headsets, I've got to bring mixers, table mics, headsets, so much junk. And I've got to bring along, at least one or two technicians with me to that as well. And you've got to, Jakarta, you have to wake up early to actually arrive anywhere on time.
Yeah.
And it was just such a headache. And I thought, geez, I can just get out of bed, and 5 minutes before having to meet with my clients, I can just rock up in front of the computer. So, this, we all know that now about COVID. Like, there's a lot of blessings that come out of it. So we've got to enjoy it while we can.
So for you, some of the worries were how it's going to work online, how you're going to have the internet, are you going to even get the equipment? And by the sounds of it, it seems like once it's been set up, you actually can see the value of doing online. So then moving forward, how do you see your business fitting in? Do you think it'll go back to normal, or do you think a lot of things will stay online?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. So absolutely. And I was really hesitant also because of the clients, because you had to really wait for the clients to get on board with everything. And fortunately, the past few months, basically everyone's on board with it. They're all very much aware that there's these features online. You can do interpretation. You can run a typical meeting online. So as soon as all the clients got on board, it's really just been gung-ho since then. And I've spoken to a few of my clients. Well, obviously, the COVID situation in Indonesia is a little bit different to Australia. We're not really seeing anything. There's no hope here really at the moment. We're not as bad as the US, but we only really know according to the amount of tests being done. So really, I have no idea when COVID would ever end in Indonesia. And look, I'm looking at kind of doing remote work for at least the next 3 years, kind of intensely. We'll wait for a vaccine to come through. And I spoke to some of my clients, because obviously, if things in Australia are good, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Indonesians can still go over there. So all these delegations are kind of, they're all pending at the moment. We basically anything that would be on site over here in like a normal job would be, any expats who are currently living here or who have decided, I'll come back and start business again. And they're kind of brave enough to go along to on-site jobs. But I spoke to some of my clients and they said, look, don't think that this remote work is going to go away. We've just found how efficient it is, especially if they just need to do, say, a 1-hour meeting with their counterpart in Australia or overseas or whatnot. Like, it just makes so much more sense money-wise and everything just to do it online. I think always, I remember speaking to a client of mine who said, do you know what? Actually, beyond all these meetings and all these discussions that we have in a meeting and all that, you know what the most important bit is? It's the coffee break. That's the time when we actually get to know someone and we chat with them and we build that rapport and that relationship with them. So that comment for me made me think, well, gosh, you can't just get rid of that forever. People need to go beyond the screen, every now and then. But
we're a social group.
That's right. So it'll be interesting. Gosh, when COVID starts to subside in Indonesia, I expect we will get more expats coming in, which will mean more jobs face to face. But at the moment, definitely remote's the way to go at the moment.
Looking forward to it. So there we saw what it looks like a little bit. Amelia, just quickly, could you explain what was happening in that video?
Okay, so this has been a really interesting shift because typically, so these were my technicians or my hosts. We call them virtual technicians or virtual hosts, who are the behind the scenes people who make everything work. So this specifically with IndoSpeak, I'm very much about having excellent people working with us because we want to provide the best quality service to our clients. And that means that I have to get qualified people. So this was very different to before, where I would have on-site technicians. Honestly, they don't have to speak English. They basically got to understand sound, and they can hand out headsets and kind of help me out with cables and all that. So really the level and the standard has gone up a lot higher, where now I'm really, because I'll explain to you a little bit. When I do Zoom interpreting, I'm basically in a booth, and I can only speak to my client if they listen to my channel. So I'm not like, here, I can talk to you easily. There's no barrier here. If I'm in the interpreter booth, you have to choose to listen to English or Indonesian, and then I can talk to you. So I'm really reliant on my team to be the ones who are liaising with my clients and all that. And on Zoom, I can't hear my partner. We always work in pairs, so I can't hear my partner talking. So I'm reliant on my technicians to help us switch and to help us know if there's any issues with sound. So it's so that's another overhead. So it does increase my cost a bit because I need to get more qualified people to work with us. But yeah, so that was just some of the fun that we have behind the scenes fun of working online.
Thank you. So I want to, before we go to our closing remarks, we want to go to some Q&A. So I'm going to bring Rizka back, and I might go and pick some of the questions that have come through the chat. Please continue to send in your questions and we'll try to get to all of them. But the first question is, do you have any experience preparing a trademark? So either of you can jump in here. Maybe Amelia for Indonesia.
Yeah, no, I haven't done trademark yet, but definitely hoping to go down that path soon, as soon as we get some time to do that. And export from Indonesia, haven't done that yet. But now with the AEDT, definitely something to be looking at as well. I know my husband's looking at, import, in fact. He wants to get motorcycles from Australia to Indonesia. So I was talking with the head of the Indonesian investment coordinating body, the agency. So things are just so much easier now for import and export. And I think going to the topic of young entrepreneurs, what they can do from now on, I think they have to look at what the opportunities are for with AEDT now of what import exports that they can do now with the reduced or the null tariffs that are happening.
Rizka, would you like to add anything?
Not sure. It's the trademark is in Australia or Indonesia, because I don't really have much experience if it's in Indonesia. But in Australia, preparing a trademark is like a really long process. Like the process can be like 3 years, 5 years. There's a lot of documents that you have to submit to the government, like to the government body, like to prepare that trademark. But yeah, it's quite a long process. We really want to have that for our product, but we haven't done that yet because of that long process, and because it's a long process, it's costs money as well. So yeah, and yeah, not really much experience about exporting, but I actually work in a international trading company before I start the business. As long as you completed the paperwork, like you must know the knowledge about the product that you're importing or exporting from overseas, and just go through all the documents. And once you can, fulfill in all the paperwork and everything, it's quite simple actually. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward with the export-import business in Australia, especially.
Yeah, that's what Amelia was saying as well. So that might be some of the tips for young entrepreneurs you were saying moving forward to have a look into.
Yeah.
So we'll go to the next question, and I believe from Courtney. During the lockdown, do you think the most important thing was learning how to pivot and adapt? And I think Rizka had spoken to this as well, with trying to deal with the fact that your restaurant was shut 3 days after opening.
Yeah, it's to me it's 100%. Like you have to learn to pivot and adapt, because either you adapt or get out. So for example, I'll give you an example. Like during the first lockdown, a lot of we have a scarcity of hand sanitizer, toilet paper, and everything. And then one of the most renowned coffee shop in Melbourne, known for their coffee, they're selling the hand sanitizer. So that's one of the things that they pivot, because hand sanitizer at the time, hand sanitizer was the main thing that people looked for. Like instead of selling the coffee, they maybe outsource the hand sanitizer from another company, and then they put their own brand, and then they make it cool. The hand sanitizer, mask. So that's you have to learn to adapt, even though it's not your thing. It's not the ideal thing to do, but to survive in the business, you have to learn to adapt so you can survive.
Yeah, just to survive, so you can go back to selling coffees, and so that you don't actually have to close your business.
Right. Yeah.
And Amelia, do you want to add anything? I know you were talking about having to go to online, and that would have been a huge step.
Yeah, I think just in terms of adapting and kind of, I guess what I found with COVID is it's finding business opportunities, and not even just making ends meet, but actually I think there's actually so much you can do during COVID where you can actually make huge profit as well. So I think one of the things that I found some new business opportunities that we hadn't done yet in IndoSpeak. I mean, we're relatively very new over here, but some of the things that we started doing was providing online note-taking services. So this is huge in Indonesia. I don't find this in Australia, but in Indonesia, they're willing to pay for people to be note-takers for many, many events, and it's just very common over here. So this was so I kind of the way I thought we should do it is, well, we just make everything into a package now. So it's like, we got your interpreters, we got your technicians, we've got your note takers. Another thing we provide is sign language interpreters. This is becoming much more popular online compared to offline. Before, people are wanting to be seen to be inclusive. So we have sign language interpreters. Another feature we've also started providing is live closed captionists, because sometimes the community, what do we say? The deaf community, the hearing impaired community, they prefer to read the text, the live closed captions, rather than watching a sign interpreter. So we basically provide both options for our clients. So I think it's just adapting, seeing what's the opportunities available and going down that path.
Incredible. I would never have thought of that suddenly sign interpretation and everything would have been more now online. That's incredible. So we'll move on to the next question from Lavina, and that's for Rizka. So do you have any suggestions for Indonesian Ibu ladies in Australia who start their side hustle selling traditional food and how they can be successful?
Yeah. So one suggestion is probably get a certification for like food handlers, because I know like Indonesian ibu-ibu or ladies in Australia, their cooking is like that. But the hygiene procedure and standards, it's very different to what we know in Indonesia. In Australia, the food safety is really, really important thing. Like even for making tempeh, like you know how they make tempeh in Indonesia, it's not pretty the most hygienic thing. But here in Australia, we have to get audited by council and auditor, like food safety auditor, like twice in a year. So that's how important it is, hygiene. So I would say that if they can get a certification of doing the food handling, it will be much more easier for them to sell to the customer, because you know the customer will need that will need to be they have to be ensured that the food that they consume is safe. And if you don't have that certification, it will be like questionable. And also with the council as well, it's more about like compliance and everything. So once you get that, it will be much more easier for you to launch the business, like the food you're selling.
And that's for temporary food stores. That's for if you have an actual kitchen or cafe. That's for everything, isn't it?
Like food handling certification is like, it's a very, very simple process. You just need to know about hygiene, pretty much, like personal hygiene, and then the basic things you need to know when handling foods. Like in Australia here, we have the 4-hour, 2 hours rules. And that's about the storage of the food, safety of the food. It's something that we don't have in Indonesia. So if you're going to sell your food in Australia, you have to know that at least. And and it's not that costly to get that certification. It's not like a course, like monthly, like it's not like a diploma course or anything. It's just like a certification where you can sit down for a few hours and then take the test, and then you can get that certificate. So, but it can really help you with your business. I think that would be one of the suggestions.
And the image of your business too, like you said.
Oh yeah, and
actually want to eat there.
Yeah.
So we've only got 5 minutes left for questions, so we might get to one or two more. The next one is also from Lavina, and it's any tips on getting contacts and network before starting a business for Amelia?
Yeah, I think basically making the most of every opportunity, kind of just going on my own experience. Yeah, basically, one client is always going to lead to the next client. So basically you want to do an excellent job with them, give them a really, really great impression of what you do. And I kind of I think going above and beyond, giving them something free or something special on top of it, like adding that special egg on top of your nasi goreng special or something like that. It makes them really happy. And then I like to get to know them as well. Like, I mean, I love getting to know my clients, over here, you kind of go above and beyond, if it's a specific meeting I go to, sometimes I think in Australia we have a very 9 to 5 mindset, but over here it's kind of like, well, if they're all going to go out for a coffee or a meal or something, well, join them, get to know your clients. And when they get to know you on a personal basis as well, there's that inclination of they're very happy to use you or to introduce you to their network as well. Another thing for me was, so not just about the clients as well, but actually really getting to know my colleagues. I get a lot of work through my colleagues as well, and we're able to really work together. You know, I have one colleague specifically who I can call up anytime and ask about technical things, and it's just because we have that mutual cooperation kind of relationship like that. So, and then social media, I mean, put yourself out there, LinkedIn, for like the international networks. Actually, I've got a number of Indonesian jobs through LinkedIn as well. Instagram is huge at the moment. I mean, really work on your social media and make sure people understand your product and what you can provide.
Those are some great tips. And maybe with online that might change, but hopefully when we get back to in-person, some of that networking might get a little easier as well.
That's right, yeah.
So we're going to go to the last question now. And I believe from Sunny, in a rough ballpark, how much is the total money we need to prepare for paperwork starting business in Australia? Oh, that's a big question.
Can I just make a shout out? This is a very good colleague of mine. Hi, Masoni. I didn't know you're here today. He's one of the biggest agencies in Indonesia. And this is a real example that Masoni has been very, very, very kind to myself and Indo Speak. And we have a very collaborative relationship and we give each other jobs. And I think this is just such an example of amazing, amazing people that you meet over here. And he is a real businessman. So Sony was one of the pioneers of RSI in Indonesia. So and he's just actually, in terms of trademarks, actually Sony just recently got a trademark for his new business name for Patagonia. But sorry, we can go to the question. So did you want me to answer?
You can, yeah, and we can go to Rizka after.
How much is the total money we need to prepare for the paperwork starting business in Australia? Okay, there's a few, I'm not sure fully about, okay, well, one thing would be, actually, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know fully about foreign businesses wanting to start over in Australia, and Rizka, feel free to chime in as well. But this is what I wanted to say before, that it's actually so easy to start a business in Australia. You just need an ABN. And I'm not sure, feel free Australians to correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is as long as you have an ABN, you can even be a foreign entity providing work in Australia. This is my understanding because I was looking at this all through the whole JobKeeper thing, you know, when things are really tough, like, am I eligible for JobKeeper? I have an ABN and I'm working overseas, but I provide services in Australia, and everything I read in JobKeeper, it was still eligible. So, Masoni, basically start looking at getting an ABN, Australian business number, and things could probably start working from then. But yeah, Australia is so easy to start a business. As long as you have a working visa and you're eligible to work in Australia, you just get an ABN. It's so easy. I think we're very kind in Australia.
And thanks to our Liberal government. Rizka, did you have anything you'd like to add there about starting a business in Australia? I'm hoping Rizka's still with us. If not, so we'll just quickly go to our closing remarks before we finish today. It's coming on 3 o'clock here in Australian Eastern Standard Time. Amelia, please, in 1 or 2 sentences, can you give us some closing remarks around maybe some tips for young entrepreneurs today?
Okay, well, I think this is really your time to shine. And I mean, I'm just so impressed with the young people at the moment. I mean, there's basically nothing you can't do. I mean, really, young people have such technical skills. They're so good with technology, social media, with computers, with platforms, everything. I think that's really a place to be shining at the moment. Whatever you can do. I mean, just look where we are at the moment with Kelas Bersama and then Aya getting this bumper video done in like 2 seconds. I mean, there's nothing these people can't do. So basically, whatever, you just have to find your niche market where you see that something is missing. You can basically make a business out of that. So this is the era where you make your own business and you can make your own money. You don't have to rely on others, I think.
Lovely words. And I think that was really encouraging that you can do it on your own and it is possible. And I think there could be one person out there that needed to hear that today. To Rizka, do you have some final words that you'd like to add for your closing statement, and maybe a tip for the young entrepreneurs here today?
Right. Yeah, I'm very agree with Amelia. Like, I think if you're thinking of entrepreneurship, like, now is the time. Like, there's an opportunity out there, like, I would say, like, just set your intention right. Like, I mean, if you're really into entrepreneurship, you must also accept that there will also be a challenge. Like it's different to where you can sit in the office and then work for someone else. Like the challenge for entrepreneurship, it's quite challenging, but if you know that it's something that you do, you just need to stick with it. Like there's always gonna be challenge in everything that you choose, but if you know exactly what you want to do, just think about it. Like what's the concept, what's the ideas, what you're going to present to your customer, and then just do it. Just take action. Like do not think too long. Like just do it and focus. You are gonna learn anyway. Like along the way, that there's a lot of things to adapt. There's a lot of things to change. There's a lot of things that you can learn along the way. So don't be afraid. Just focus and believe in what you're doing. Believe in what your product or service. I think that will be some ideas for the young entrepreneurs.
Thank you. And I think that's so true. We've learned today, well, how can you start a business in Indonesia or Australia? What are some of the challenges which are going to be inevitable for anyone starting a business? How does COVID change everything? And that clearly the response, what I've learned from both of you is have an idea, believe in it, and then if there's a challenge, have a quick response and adapt. Test it out, change it, and adapt. That's sort of been my big lesson today. So thank you very much to our speakers, Rizka and Amelia. And I want to continue to thank you to Roland from Kelas Bersama. He's been in the background doing the video. To Lavina and the team from AYA Queensland, as well as the team from AYA National. And lastly, Firman from AMAC Brisbane, who's been doing a great job of marketing today's webinar. Now get on to all of the social medias for everyone. Like them, follow them for our speakers and all of the collaborators. And then if you remember anything from today and you want to go back to it, the recording will be available on the Kelas Bersama YouTube channel. So on that note, I'd like to say terima kasih and goodbye to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Same to you.
everyone.